Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk a bit in the next 30 minutes or so about success on LinkedIn. And really, for almost everybody at this event, this is going to be applicable whether you're B2B, B2C. I'm going to come at it through the B2B lens largely. But let's get into talking about social selling success on LinkedIn. And we'll start with data because it's mandatory for all business presentations to cite McKinsey in the first 3 slides. So let's not bury the lead. People who, sellers in particular, who embrace digital sell more. They close more deals. They tend to close deals at a higher value. There's just benefit upon benefit upon benefit. And the data keeps stacking up. Top sellers that use digital have more than half of their customer interactions. So a third, some math gets weird here. A third of the top selling B2B sales folks do more than half of their interactions via digital. We've got high performing B2B sellers generate more than half of their revenue from digital, that's 42%, and 70% combine offline and online for creating different customer experiences. One of the CSOs at the table I sat at for dinner last night was talking about a former client that had spent a whole year and a lot of money and time to connect with just over 200 prospects in a year. And they were doing, bespoke presentations where they were going on site, in person, doing presentations, and it's really effective. But think about all the work that goes into each of those meetings and only being able to get 200 at-bats in a year. It's just not enough for most companies or most sales teams to sustain the business. So they need something that allows them to scale their efforts, but also allows them to pretty rapidly home in on where the real opportunities for engagement are, rather than sort of spreading it out evenly across the whole landscape of opportunity. So digital is what makes that possible. And in particular, LinkedIn is the form that takes for a lot of folks in sales. So why isn't everybody doing it? Well, the usual reasons, because change is hard, because sellers, want to be out there selling and their bosses want them out there selling. Folks don't know really what to do with their own LinkedIn profile, let alone how to coach sales about what they should do with theirs, or how to use advanced tools like CRMs and Sales Navigator. So a lot of reasons why not to do it. Most of these can be pretty easily knocked down if we think about a structured approach. So these are the 3 things that we see make a difference. Establishing an effective presence on LinkedIn. So this is profiles, what's your strategy, what's your approach, what are you there to accomplish, and how are you going to go about it? Engaging in ways others value. A lot of folks get stuck around, well, yeah, I know I'm supposed to be on LinkedIn, and I know I'm supposed to post more, but I don't know what to post, and I don't know what's okay to post about the company. So we can take that out of the equation and get people over the hump by helping them understand how they can engage with other people on the platform and get and give value from those engagements. And then lastly, we want to get to the point where we're able to help folks see the value in building their own professional brand and demonstrating their own subject matter expertise. And really, for me, the shorthand there is, artists don't do market research. So if you are in the industry, if you are in the space, if you know about the audience that you are trying to talk with, you don't need a lot of data to tell you what to do because you are part of that community. You're aware of what the concerns are. You're aware of what the challenges are. And your perspective is valuable from that expertise. So we're going to dive into each of these a little bit. I will let you know, we discovered in the last session that I used a lot of screenshots. This was the wrong form factor for this presentation. So I'm going to end up having to narrate a lot because they don't necessarily pull through in the most ideal way. All right. Before we get to that, though, an effective LinkedIn presence is a team effort. It's not all on one person's back. So primarily marketing is responsible for the company's presence via the LinkedIn company page. This is a great hub for your basic information. What is your company? What do you do? Who do you sell to? How big is it? Where is it located? Etc. From there, folks are going to encounter individuals, and those profiles matter as well. So if I've got this great company page and it looks like a wonderful place to work and a wonderful company to do business with, and then I look at the individual profiles of the people who work there, and they're kind of bare bones or absent, it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't flow as an experience, and now it starts to make me wonder, is this place really credible? Are these people really reachable and engageable here? And you may even need to rope in operations. So if you're doing a more sophisticated sort of sales operation where you are using a connected CRM, Sales Navigator, you want to make sure you're mapping everything back into the pipeline, you've got a sophisticated attribution model, operations may need to get involved there as well. But all these folks are working in the same direction, which is to make LinkedIn a place that can actually generate business for you and your clients. We grabbed a client company to look at. So this is TriStar. I don't know if anybody in the room worked on TriStar, but it is from the industrials case studies on the website. And they're doing a great job. Just at a very basic level, this is the sort of top part of their profile. Company logo, name, the facts here, appliances, electrical manufacturing, where they are, where you can meet them at this upcoming event, and then a little tagline, shaping the future of power. So it's saying not just a supplier of electrical appliance equipment. They really say, hey, we're forward-looking, we're shaping the industry, we're influential. And when we look at what they're sharing to demonstrate that, these are going to be your standard job posts. And again, this doesn't carry through very well, but it's got a nice little blurb about why you should join the company. Again, they're shaping the future of power. This is a company that is a leader in the industry. And then it lists out the individual jobs. That's what people often think about. LinkedIn, I go there when I need a job. I find other people who are looking for jobs. Each of them have maybe a couple interactions, a couple likes. And this is what we think is the sort of coin of the realm. But it turns out when they share product information, in fact, this is a video when you see it in the wild, it is talking about this new product that they have, and it's for electrical professionals, so it talks about it in technical terms. So this is one of those things that we see folks get off track. If you're going to post about something like this to LinkedIn from your company page, you don't have to explain to the world what this piece of equipment is. You don't have to dumb it down so anybody who sees it might become interested. You're speaking specifically to an industry of professionals. Use that language, signal that you're part of that community. These posts got 10, 12, 15 likes each, so we're getting better. This next batch is a bunch of photos from a sales kickoff. Another one is National Plaid Shirt Day. So here we're showing off the people behind the company. Is this a great place to work? Do they offer career development? Do they seem like they like each other? All these other little signals that allow you to assess whether this is a company you want to do business with. Well, it's also supporting those job posts. It's also sort of telling you a bit about the culture of the company. So each of these things is providing a facet to get some insight into the company. The other thing I would say is there's a little bit of a engagement trick here, which is if I put a bunch of pictures of the team doing something fun, one, LinkedIn knows what to do with that. It's like, great, I'm gonna show it to everybody who works here. I'm gonna show it to everybody who used to work with everybody who's in the photo. I'm gonna show it to other people who work at businesses in the same location. So LinkedIn knows what to do with this. And if you like this photo because you used to work with someone who's in it, the next time you go back to LinkedIn, you're gonna see more content from this company. And it's probably not gonna be a picture of Plaid Shirt Day. It's probably gonna be product information or event information. So there's a little bit of a buttonhole approach there, which is to say, throwing out some of these photos of the team, special days, holidays, get folks to engage in a way that when they come back to LinkedIn later, they're seeing other content and you have more opportunities.
You mentioned showing this to people that are in the photo. Does that suggest that there's image recognition of facial recognition, or do you have to?
You can tag people. The tagging of people helps, but I wouldn't, I don't know for a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised to find out that there is some layer of AI that's also filling in the gaps. But I don't know that for a fact. And then the last two things that I'm going to sort of point to here, just as part of a really healthy mix, this one with the orange semicircle, this is a video recap of everything this company did in the community for the prior year. So this is at the end of 2023 saying, here's everything that we've done in 2023, talks about employee achievements, talks about some community activities that they've done, new product launches. This got the most engagement of all. This got, I think, close to 70 likes versus their normal stuff, which is like 10 or 12. So think about 3, 4, 5 times as many likes on something that is not directly buy this product from me now, preferably. So we want to think about how to use this information to create a picture in the mind of your prospects. Did you have another question?
Well, there's, in-company likes.
What's,
Or,
Sure.
likes from people in the company
for
that
sure.
provide, no marketing outside the company value, right?
They help to signal again to LinkedIn, this is a piece of content that is interesting to people. So even if it's your employees that are liking, and we've done analysis on this, and we find that at bigger, I'm going to say companies with maybe 1,000 employees plus, what we would normally see is anywhere from like 40 to 60% of the engagement on the LinkedIn company page is the employees, but that the posts that the employees engage with most also get the most reach outside of the employee base, if that makes sense. So by them interacting with it, it actually gets it in front of their networks.
Cause and effect?
Yes.
Well, it raises it to their network.
So this is kind of the weird undercurrents of social that are different than an email. If I send you an email, you open it or you don't. If you interact with a piece of my social content, it may now be on the feed of any number of other folks. All right, sorry, the last piece here I wanted to point out in the lower right is actually a third-party article. This is a kind of manufacturing trade magazine talking about some of the practices going on at this company. So as a mix, you want to talk about yourself in favorable terms, you want to talk about your team, and you want to talk about your impact.
So just if you can get into this, how much do like hashtags impact, and how much does the content, the blurb impact?
It's a really good question. I wasn't going to get into it here, so I definitely invite anybody who wants to talk about it in nerdy detail to come by the table.
Okay.
I will say in brief, less and less. LinkedIn in particular, social platforms in general are making a bit of a flip to to use AI to understand better who are you and what are you an expert in and what do you think you're an expert in, what do other people recommend you for. So there's all these other underlying things that AI is assessing to say, this is the best thing to do with this post. Over time, things like hashtags, things like using certain keywords in the copy of the post will not be as important as they have been historically.
So do you have a recommendation on mix of what should be curated content, should be the people interesting content, and then like product offerings content?
I think we have kind of a default mix that we generally recommend to clients, and then we usually end up kind of tailoring it for each one because not every client has access to all of those different types of content. But generally speaking, and I think that's something Danielle and I could talk to you about at the table, like what is the base mix that we start with and then start to sort of adjust the percentages. But this is a pretty good pastiche of what we would say, some content that is about working here, about working with us as a company, and about what kind of company we are. Those are sort of like your values. Those are kind of the big three buckets that we would start with.
It kind of fills in the typical social media deal where if you're interesting, I'll be interested.
Yes. Kind of, yeah. I think it's, it taps into, yes, I think that's probably a good way to say it. I won't go deeper. Only got all this time here, so.
One question.
All right, oh, sorry.
I think I know the answer to this, but likes versus shares versus comments.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most powerful? Is it comments, sharing that with the comments?
These days,
or what?
yeah, these days, the thing that LinkedIn likes the most is comments. It tends to shift because what tends to happen is everybody goes, oh, comments? Great, I'll come up with a strategy for doing lots and lots and lots of comments, and sort of breaks the system, and then they adjust the algorithm, and we all run to do something else. But for right now, just keep in mind, like LinkedIn, if everything you're doing on LinkedIn, it's trying to figure out who are you, how authoritative are you, which topics are you authoritative about? That's their perspective. So unlike a number of the other channels that are prioritizing different things, LinkedIn's trying to say, I am about your level of expertise and credentialing you and becoming a place where if you get this little top voices in, AI, that's something that you value. And so trying to create this little cycle. All right, let me keep moving here. So we've talked about the company, and now we're going to shift to the individual. And so if we had this wonderful company page full of lots of different content, and then you saw someone reached out to you from that company, and you went to their profile, and it looked like this. It's going to create a huge disconnect. I mean, this is like running full speed into a brick wall. So we've redacted a couple details to protect the innocent and the guilty, but you can see that it's really just missing the boat in terms of all the opportunities to connect. I can't tell who this is. I can't tell what company they come from. I've blacked it out, but it doesn't link to a real company page, so it's kind of a single shingle operation. Nothing here that tells me how this person can help me. And though they are connected to Karen, so they would pass all of these things. I would bypass all these concerns. They're not connected to too many other people in my network. And so I kind of question, like, is this person a B2B CMO and nobody in my network of 500 plus, marketing contacts is connected to this person? It's fairly suspicious. And I contrast that to, again, my favorite outsider, Ms. Hayward, and I go, what a great job. This is very clear to me. You go, this is a business-friendly profile photo. Folks will ask a lot, oh, should I wear a suit? Should I get a professional headshot? And our advice is usually, your headshot on LinkedIn should make it possible for me to meet you for coffee and identify you when you walk in the door. So it can't be 30 years old. If you don't have hair now, don't have hair in the picture. Like, you've got to give people a fighting chance. So if you're going to walk in a suit, wear a suit in the picture, by all means. But if you're not, then show up on your profile like you would show up in real life. Clear value prop for the company through the branded header, and associating Karen to the company through an official company page. In addition, we've got a personal value prop. So not only should you understand that this is Karen, she's with Chief Outsiders, this is what Chief Outsiders does, here's why you should work with her. This is the value she brings, this is who she can help. And lastly, I've got almost 60 folks in the network that are overlapping between the two of us. So again, this starts to say, okay, it would be very easy for me if I hadn't met Karen to reach out to someone who I do know and pretty quickly get the skinny on, like, okay, is this person legit? Should we work together? Do you think it would be a good combo? So really taking advantage of the basic tools that are there to accomplish what you're there to do on LinkedIn. And then, of course, there's Sales Navigator, which I mentioned. So I'll go over this a little quickly, but increasingly, the main LinkedIn experience, you're going to spend all this time trying to get through other brands' posts and your friends and former colleagues that are looking for jobs. It's hard to just use the main LinkedIn tool to prospect or to do focused engagement off of a target account list or something like that. Sales Navigator can really make that possible. You build lists of companies and people, and then you can filter the alerts feed here, that main feed, to say, just show me what's happening with people on this list. Just show me what's happening with companies on this list. So it can make your time spent on LinkedIn much more efficient, because you actually probably don't need to know every single day what's going on with every company you've ever interacted with on the platform, but you're very interested if all of a sudden there's a new opportunity to talk to someone who's on your target list, if they got a promotion, if they changed jobs. These things are all things you would want to know about and be able to take action on right away. All right, let's talk about engaging others. So that first step we mentioned, folks get hung up on, I know I'm supposed to be doing LinkedIn, but I don't know what to post. Just post on others' content, like things, comment on it, share it with a perspective. And again, I apologize, these screenshots are gonna be kind of miserable, but a thing that is being demonstrated here is the main post is kind of pseudo-controversial. The founder of a non-alcoholic beverage company said, I saw this post earlier this week and someone was saying, what's the point of non-alcoholic beverages? And I agree. And so you go, what? How can he agree? This is, And this generates all these comments, right? People are like, oh yeah, I know. I can't believe that people don't see the future of the industry. Or, I don't know, maybe it isn't gonna go the way you think it is. So you start to see that he's able to pull out of the woodwork other people on the platform who are interested in the space, who have strong opinions, who maybe have other business opportunities. And then as they're making comments, he's responding to those comments. So kind of one original post, and then just following the ripples outward, outward, outward. The game is almost kind of keeping the engagement going. And all these folks who comment and get a comment back, when they return to LinkedIn, they're going to see more of this person's content in their feed.
Are you suggesting that you want to be provocative?
I think provocative is a good temperature on that continuum. You can think, you want to inspire people to interact with it. If you just state a fact or share an obvious observation, there's nothing really to react to. So it does require some thought about how to evoke, let's say, will be evocative.
So does this person like set out to be evocative?
I think so, yeah. That's my read of the general vibe was that they were trying to elicit exactly this response.
Was that part of their business though? Like, was it gonna help his cause?
I mean, I think so, in that you see the people interacting are people who are in that same non-alcoholic beverage space. And so they could be distributors, they could be partners, they could be consumers. But it's giving him sort of some insight into what other people think about the category and possibly surfacing some folks in that are, opportunities genuinely. Another way to sort of parlay this same thing, and this starts to edge towards our third piece, which is, demonstrating subject matter expertise. These are original posts, but they're about some experience you've had. In the case on the left here, we have a guy who is saying, hey, I work in tech. People are always telling me my passion for baking was, my baking was so good, I should open a bakery. So I did, and it failed, and here's the story about my failed business. So, it's good info because most people who fail don't want to talk about it. They do not want to tell you the grim details of how that failure went and how it made them feel. So having someone describe that, being able to get that insight in a pretty low-risk way to me is really interesting.
What about using LinkedIn to announce or to track a personal event like
Sure.
cancer or something that's like it's not really business related, but it may be good to know since I'm not that person. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same kind of, I'll take it from the coffee shop, being able to recognize you two. This would go, if we had a business dinner, we would talk about business for a certain amount of time. But at some point, we would talk about some other element of our personal lives. And so I kind of use that rule for whether you would share it on LinkedIn. Would you share that information in that context? Maybe, if it came up, maybe not. And so that to me has been a good barometer for each individual to just go, hey, would I bring this up if I was at dinner with a client? And it was appropriate, is kind of where we go there. Oh, go ahead.
On the prior, seemed to have lost my voice for a second, on the prior slide, as that dialogue is happening on that original post, is LinkedIn Navigator able to extract from those responses who should be added to your target list?
Not in an automatic way, but I think in a sort of, in a slightly non-automatic
So
way.
the manual
There is
goes
the
through
ability to
that.
say, show me people that have interacted with my content
But then I have
recently.
to pick and
And then you
choose.
add them to
So
a list.
It's not recommending which ones I
That's
should
right.
prioritize.
Yeah, there's no guarantee it'll pick it up automatically, so you would need a little bit of a manual process that said, okay, let me go through this thread and add these folks. Just quickly finishing up on this slide, in the middle I've got Monica. She's a demand gen marketer. She took a class about growth marketing and talks in this post about how it changed her perspective, that after 20 years of being a demand gen marketer, her eyes were open through this course. It really helped her feel like she was taking advantage of more modern techniques. She's able to tag some of the instructors, stay on their radar. So again, taking her personal experience, but sharing the value of it with her audience of other marketers. And then lastly, on the right here, Charm is working for a company that does geolocation data, but she's talking about visiting a client and how they brought up dry January. And so she uses it to parlay into some research they've done about foot traffic to package stores and beverage stores during January, and demonstrating the kind of data that they have and that they traffic in and how it could be used for market research, but doing it through a personal story. So this is a way to sort of cut that line between, well, on a company page, you might be a little more promotional about how your data helped this business owner understand what to do. Through the lens of a personal story, you're gonna get the reach to your personal network. You're gonna get kind of a different type of interaction. And I heard the magic chimes, and we are so not done. So let me just move it along here. 3 more examples. Again, as we go down the chain here and we start to do original posts, they start to feel more like ways to do your own subject matter expertise. But each of these is pulling in a slightly different angle. On the left here, we've got a guy who was laid off with his whole team, and his post starts that while he looks for a new opportunity, what he'd love to do is introduce folks to some of the members of his team that were laid off. So what a great way to do that. I mean, if you just think about how many posts you see in your LinkedIn feed that's like, well, it finally happened, I got laid off, I'm looking for a job, if anybody knows about anything, and you go, okay, sorry, and move on. What a really interesting and revealing way to do that is to say, I'm looking for a new thing, but in the meantime, let me tell you about these other great people who are also looking for a thing. And I happen to know that this team member that he's talking about did already land a new gig. So on top of it, it works. In the middle, we have Isaac Sakalik. He's a CIO influencer. He writes regularly for ZDNet, CIO.com. And in doing his articles, he uses that perch as a media person to reach out to people in the industry and get, it's almost like the collaborative articles that LinkedIn's doing. He'll say, hey, I'm doing a piece on how to get over objections to digital transformation. And he'll reach out to a bunch of folks, pull in quotes, and intersperse those throughout his article. This is fantastic for like executive thought leadership platforms. If you can't get a whole byline placed, starting to put your executives into articles like this that pull together multiple perspectives. Again, the exec doesn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Comms can often write the contribution for them, but it's another angle to start raising your professional profile. And then on the last one here, a bit of back-patting. We do a series of dinners throughout the year where we get together maybe a dozen senior marketers and an influencer as a guest who has some kind of particular expertise. We recently did one with another CIO influencer, Tim Crawford. We post about the dinner with some pictures, and then of course there's posts on posts from everyone who came to the dinner about how great they are and how, you know, people who missed the dinner and how much they wish they could come to the next one, and then the guest amplifying that as well. So each of these is sort of another interim step from I have to have something original to say to I can't do anything on LinkedIn. You can kind of split that difference. And then,
Very
yeah.
quick question. Back in the good old days with social media, you used to put your wagon to your star and broaden your.
Man, those were the days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any way to do that here now without sort of?
Yeah, less so. I mean, I think it used to be you kind of go like, great, I checked the box on these 3 or 4 things, and I'm going to get at least an average level of success. What I've seen with the changes in the platforms over the last couple years is you really want to place bets rather than kind of doing the peanut butter evenly spread across everything, which is why we decided to focus on LinkedIn here. Is if I am an executive, if I'm a senior leader at this point, I'm probably going to double down on LinkedIn and just try to maximize the value out of this platform rather than saying, well, I got to also have time to do X and I have also time to keep up on Facebook and I also need to do my Instagram. I'd probably place some bets and maximize for that presence at this point. Is that helpful? Okay.
Right.
Cool. This last one I'll talk about, and this is into the subject matter expertise, and I'm going to kind of play off this to say it is what you know, and ways to show what you know are to do your own bylines, to host your own podcast, to do a series of web videos, to write a series of blog posts. But here again, you can kind of double down and you can say, oh, if I have a podcast, well, then I get to invite other people to be on my podcast. So when I reach out to folks, instead of saying, can you do me a favor? I get to say, I have this great opportunity for you to raise your profile. I would love to introduce you to my audience or to my peers. And you all see here the power of that in these couple days, is there's so much networking that says, oh, I know someone who you should know, let me introduce you, let me connect you. You want to just create those types of opportunities at a bigger scale using digital. And so some of these content platforms, podcasts, articles, speaking engagements, video series, these are all strategies that are kind of at the peak there of saying, I'm going to do a series of LinkedIn Lives, and I'm going to use my expertise to ask other people insightful questions and use that video to then post through my LinkedIn. So you can think about different ways to combine these.